right. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Bud Tristano, and I was named after Bud Powell by my father, Lenny Tristano. Bud Powell was his favorite piano player, bar none.
Okay. Let's try
Yeah,
that one
after
more.
well, we could do it like after a half hour of talking. We can come back to it.
Okay, then let's do that.
Okay.
So one thing that I did want to say was uh, I did want to talk a little bit about you, if that's all right. Like
Okay.
if you can just
Sure.
talk about, what kind of music, what instrument, and all that stuff.
Okay.
Introduce yourself, and maybe would you be comfortable saying, I'm based in Pennsylvania and I have been a musician for blah, 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 or this is the instrument I play, or something like that?
Sure. I'll try. But I'll go over what I we talked about on the phone.
Yeah, yeah.
So before my parents split, when we all lived together in Queens, I started out life as a piano player. In fact, my earliest memory is me playing the piano and listening to records from my father's collection. And after my parents split, we went over to New Jersey and I had to take lessons. My mom had me take lessons with some piano teachers. And I was so turned off of the lesson taking that I wouldn't even listen to music for 5 years, if you can imagine that. So I stopped playing piano. And I didn't even get interested in playing an instrument again until I was 20 years old. In fact, I told both my parents that I never wanted to play an instrument again, and they were both cool with it. Like there was no pressure. I just didn't have the language to explain why I didn't. I didn't have the musical terminology to explain why, and that was mostly because of the Ionian bias of the material, like C major, like stuff down your throat and Yankee Doodle and Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. That's not my material.
Mm.
So I got interested in the guitar when I was 20, but I didn't act on that interest for about 3 years. And then I finally dove in full deep. Like I also went through my own phase of the maniac phase of just playing the instrumental hours of the day. When there was no work or school or any other obligations at all, I just played constantly. And with the guitar, I was self taught.
Mm.
So probably because of my early experience with various music teachers. So
Um, okay. Can we also say your earliest memory of your dad? Who he was to you, or what image you had? Because you didn't live with him for long, right?
yeah, went till I was about 4, and then we
Yeah.
saw him every weekend till I was about 12. So
What was your impression of him when you were young? Did you know that he was this pianist? And did you know that?
no,
Oh,
not at all. No,
right.
um, I don't even know how to answer that.
Okay. All
It's
right.
just
Then
you're
you don't
in
have.
a child, and that's just your world. And
Right.
that house on Palo Alto Street was just my whole world, and I could look out a window,
Hmm.
and I loved the backyard, but I don't really have anything
Memories.
concrete. It was just they were my parents, and that's who they were.
Right. And what about your name? So when did you know, and how did you know that you were named after Bud Powell?
I wasn't actually told for years, and then see also when my parents split, even though my mother liked a lot of like Charlie Parker and a lot of that music, um, I wasn't exposed to all the names, so I lost track of all the different jazz musician names. Like I listened to Louis Armstrong, um, but I had forgotten all about Bud Powell till I was probably late teens, early 20s.
And how
And
did you find out?
a lot of his associates told me.
Hmm.
So like Connie Crothers told me,
Hmm.
and she was one of his closest friends
Hmm.
for years and years.
Hmm.
So I trust her completely.
Hmm. Hmm. One thing that you had mentioned to me over the phone was that when I had actually, would you kind of, well, okay, let me rephrase that. So maybe I can explain it myself and then ask you to answer it. Um, so I had reached out to you because
Mm-hmm.
I read on Wikipedia about Lenny Tristano that
Right.
he had children and one of the sons' name was Bud. And because I was curious if this Bud was named after Bud Powell. I did some research uh, through friends, and that's how I got in touch with you. And you had mentioned that I was only the third person to have asked you that.
I remembered one more, so you're the fourth. That's
I'm the
still,
fourth.
yeah.
Can
Yeah,
you?
Warren Marsh's son also asked me that too, Jason. So he asked me in an email, "Are you named after Sir Powell?" Of course, the answer is yes. So you're the fourth person to ask me. So,
And so all three people are the musicians? You
yep.
said, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Um, no, I think because my project is about Bud Powell and the love people have for Bud Powell, Lenny Tristano's interview was very important to me because I could tell that he was completely, impressed by Bud's musical ability.
Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit about that, or what you know, how much you know?
Well, I started listening to Bud Powell maybe about 10 years ago with more intensity. And I'll show you my,
About records?
this is a record he raved about in the interview. It's a
Oh,
gatefold. So
can you
I'll
put
try
it in the center?
it's,
There you go. A little down, lower, so we can see the top. There you go.
yeah, it's
Charlie
called One Night in,
Parker, One Night in Birdland.
that's the material he's talking about. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a double album. And
Mm-hmm.
Bob Powell's on all of it except for the last two tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it's more like a bootleg quality recording, um, the very my very favorite track is the Round Midnight. And his solo is just absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a point in there where he plays a descending chord line that just sounds like a spaceship landing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes into really nice blues feeling. It's just really incredibly beautiful.
What year was that record from? 50s, I imagine, right?
It would be.
Yeah, when he was alive, Charlie Parker.
Yeah, June 30th, 1950.
1950. Wow. Yeah.
And then, of course, I love these two albums too.
Oh, you have the amazing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I really love, it's my inner Paganini. I love his cadenzas.
Mm-hmm.
So many songs he ends with a really nice flourishes, but really inventive and brilliant. Like You Go to My Head on Volume 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. I even tried to work that out on the guitar.
And
Well, I came up with something, but I had to transpose it to E. Um, that's sort of like a joke, but it fits on the neck better also. So I could, and that's the problem with the piano has such a wide range, and there's only in E you might have 4 octaves, so you have to do some trimming to rein it all in so it'll fit on the guitar. But
mm-hmm.
even though I can't play it anywhere near the way Bud Powell can play it, it's just incredible just to go through that and just feel like what he came up with, and probably that was just completely spontaneous.
Yeah, I love that. No, I think you're right. I mean, I'm not a musician, but I've been saying that listening to his music is very creatively satisfying,
Mm-hmm.
because you hear somebody using his instrument to do problem solving. You know, it kind of feels that way. There's an active thing happening in the music, and maybe, and yeah. Do you have any recording of that, what you were explaining just now?
Now, in fact, my chops are way down because I had a really bad fall, so I haven't been able to play.
Oh,
Just now starting to get my hand back in shape to even play. So
I see, I see, I see.
if I come up with something, I could send you an audio.
Yeah, no, that would be great
I'd be
because
really disappointing, but I'll try.
yeah, no, I think well, let's hone in a little bit about what you said. And so this is one of the questions that I've asked my interviewees. If you had to describe Bud's music to somebody who's unfamiliar with his sound, what kind of adjectives would you use?
Hmm. I mean, of course, you go right with amazing because of the title of the album, but it's like I'd say deep and profound. Because my father talked about how it was like a revelation to him that just by playing an instrument that you can portray a profound feeling. So something I came up with, well, I could say art and artistry, because my own, I came up with this myself. I don't know if people would agree or not, but to me, a work of art is like a finite piece of, it's a finite representation of infinity. So an artist has to express the infinite. And if we can't, we die, basically. So it's just when you're an artist, and that's not even that there's no pretense in that, because the average person, they have this misconception about an artist. They either think you're a painter or that you're just being pretentious, but it means that you just have this need to create and express a profound feeling through whatever your art form is. And so that's a work of art is a finite expression of infinity. That's really what you're doing. That's Bud Powell is doing that. I mean, you can just feel it. And it's hard for me to put feelings into words, you know.
I think that's great.
Is it
I,
making sense at all?
huh?
Is
Yo,
that
yeah. I mean, you're kind of preaching to the choir because I believe that completely, but I've never thought of it that way. Um, that
yeah,
you're making something finite, to express something infinite.
yeah, because well, yeah, because a work like a painting on the wall that is like a finite thing or a
A
piece of music,
material thing that
but
you're
you're
captured.
expressing infinity. Yeah, yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
snapshot in a way.
It's like trying to make something that is not really graspable.
Yeah, yep.
Right. Which is another way of saying art is expansive. It's like an expansive world that you're trying to kind of capture for people.
And I think people kind of miss the point. Like they talk about the night sky and they see like a beautiful, like all the stars in the sky, and they say it makes me feel so small. But I don't really think that's the right way to look at it. You
Mhm.
just, if you feel part of it all, there's some kind of immersion in infinity. That's quite a profound feeling. And to tell yourself, well, I feel so small, I'm worthless because look how beautiful that sky is. I don't think that's the way to go. You're trying to bring that beauty so a person can feel it. Something that I don't know if he came up with this, but it's on a Steve Vai album, and there's a woman's voice that says, um, "God gave the gift of artists to the world so that they could dream. People could dream while they were awake," which is kind of interesting. I kind of like that. I don't know if Steve got that out of a book or if he made that up himself, but that's another way of looking at it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Steve Vai?
He's my favorite living guitarist.
Oh, how do you spell Vi? V-I?
VAI.
Oh, V-A-I.
I think it's Italian for to go or go.
Oh, I see. Vi. Okay, I got it. Got it. Oh, that's a beautiful quote. Yeah, it was interesting because recently a friend of mine wrote an article about some political stuff in Georgia in Eastern Europe, and the name of that ruling party happens to be Dream. It's the
Oh,
Dream
interesting.
Party. And I had to look it up. And it's like, I've never considered the word dream being used in a political sense.
No,
And it's also a conservative party at that. And so
right.
how disappointing, you know?
That
And
makes
but he was saying in the article how the state of society in Georgia is very, very conservative, and there's a lot of anti everything there. And freedom of speech is being, uh, ta tackled and all that stuff. And I remember writing back to his email saying, it's sad because human rights, the term human rights gets talked about so often, you know,
right.
but I remember writing, um, if to dream is a human right, so is living,
Hmm.
which is a way of it's kind of what we're talking about right now is you're saying the opposite in the way that we're capturing the dream. Artist's job is to capture what we envision in our heads or what's happening outside of us, which I think is what Bud was doing.
Hmm.
And that's why it's very hard to explain.
Well, also, I think he was so immersed in it. If he had that as a conscious thought, he wouldn't be able to do it. Like you can't say, "Oh, now I'm going to make people feel
Mm,
the profundity of the universe." If you even think it's already getting your brain in the way, I think
hmm
you just have to let go of all that, and just plunge right in.
hmm
And I think, how did my father describe it? Like sinking to the bottom of the piano,
hmm
an expression like that, like sinking into the keys, and you're sinking all the way to the bottom of the piano.
hmm
Even I think he attributed that to a classical piano player too. So he didn't discriminate
hmm
with other genres of music.
hmm Yeah, I mean, Bud's sound was, I don't know. I mean, that's why I really connected with Lenny's interviews because
That
some,
means a lot that you did. That means a lot to me. So I appreciate
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's why I kept on listening to the interview. And even though, I've interviewed 40 musicians for this project and, I haven't interviewed Lenny, but I really wanted that to be part of it,
it.
like
Right.
as if he was being interviewed, you know?
Yeah.
Because if there was anybody who was a lover of Bud's music, I mean, Lenny definitely was. And
For sure.
so it's definitely interesting that I'm talking to you because when a few months ago I didn't think of making this connection. It was only through Wikipedia that I just naturally.
The internet is amazing.
Internet is amazing. Yeah, you're
The thing
absolutely
is,
right.
it's a double-edged sword because I find myself missing the innocent time before the internet too.
Right.
I feel lucky I got to live before that and like get the get all this new technology and get to experience all of its benefits. But there was a freedom that was lost too, which I miss.
So I'm going to ask you this another question that I do ask other interviewees. Um, and I'm going to ask it in two ways. One is I'm going to ask you, Bud, if Bud Powell magically, in a spiritual way or whatever, physical way, metaphysical way, appears in your
Hmm.
space right now and
Hmm.
sits next to you, is there anything you'd like to say to him or ask him?
Well, I'd like to sit next to him on a piano and just hear him play. That's probably what I ask him. Can I just hear you play?
Mm,
I wouldn't even want to ask for a lesson or anything. I just want to hear him play.
mm,
And also just talk. Just that's a problem. Like you need a long time. Like if you could just have some time to just start talking, not knowing even what you're going to talk about,
mhm.
you know, I'd like to know, like, I suspect he must have studied some classical music. So I'd like to know, I'd ask him about that because I love classical music too. I have a really deep love for it.
Mm.
And all of his influences, I'd like to know what inspired him. And I want to just hear him play, though. That's probably what I'd ask him to play for me.
Okay. All right. The second part of this question is, and I know that you probably, you and your father, I mean, I know I understand that as a child, our impression of our parents are rather different from the persona that they are known to be outside
Yeah,
from your
yeah.
perspective. But I am curious, if you could imagine yourself in your dad's mind right now, and if he had the opportunity to sit next to Bud, is there anything that you could imagine? Like, what do you think that your dad would say or ask him or
I see. I'm already jumping ahead. Like I want to hear them play four hands on the piano. I just want to hear them play.
oh.
But maybe if he could dive into that, expressing a profound feeling, like he might want to pursue that because that's how he put it. Something about conveying a profound feeling just by. He described the piano as like a pile of junk, like wood and wire and keys and stuff. So even though like the craftsmanship of a Steinway is incredible, um, how do you get like what is it that how do you get to a profound, deep, profound feeling? How did you get to that? It's I still think like if you ask an artist that, it's almost like asking a centipede how they walk, and they'll start tripping over their 100 feet. But I'd like that because that's the kind of stuff that interests me. Because once you get there, too many people think whatever genre they come out of is superior to the other musical genres, and I think you go beyond that, past that. So, like, what is that feeling? How could you put that into words? That profound feeling that you're getting to when you play.
No, I totally get it. And I love that part where Lenny says that, most people play it like a piece of junk, and they, he puts that last line in there, for
Well,
most people, it sounds like a piece of junk.
well,
Um,
it's funny because he never minced his words. He wasn't afraid to
that's what
express
I heard.
opinion. Yeah, what I've been heard through the grapevine. He knew every word in the dictionary except for tact.
Yeah, I heard that he was not a fan of many things, and Bud Powell was definitely one
Yeah,
of the ones that he loved.
the list of musicians that he considered really great was very short, from what I understand. I wish I could have talked to my father more about music because once I gave up on playing, we didn't talk about music that much.
Mm.
And because he was more open minded than you would think. I remember because when we still lived in Jersey and we saw him on the weekends, he'd have a driver come pick us up and he'd ride with the driver. So on the way home, we were going across the George Washington Bridge, and one of my sisters asked him if you could hear any piece of music right now, what would you want to hear? And he said, "Let it be." So like he was more open minded than people would think.
Oh, that's really
Yeah, it is.
interesting.
Yeah, and I know that with popular music, he really loved Diana Ross's singing when she was with the Supremes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he followed her career after that, but he just loved that period of Diana Ross.
Mm. Did he ever mention Bud Powell to you that you remember?
Not when we were little, no. So now after we're done talking, I'll be thinking of all these things I want to ask my father. Maybe it'll
Right,
come to me in a dream or something.
right, right. Well, I think I think the what we spoke about artist, and what Bud's ability and maybe what he was trying to do, I think that is the strongest part of this interview. Um, let's go back to your intro one more time.
My name is Bud Tristano, and I was named after Bud Powell by my father, Lenny Tristano, because Bud Powell was his favorite piano player of all time, bar none. I'm
Perfect. That's
oh,
it. That's
okay.
it. That was
All right.
great.
All right.
That's the cut I'll use if I do use it. But yeah, no, the what you said about what the artists what we're trying to achieve, I think that is going to resonate with me a lot. So I think there's definitely something I could work with here.
All right.
All right. Do you have any questions for me? We have about 5 minutes.
Yeah. When you show your interview subjects when they appear in your film, what kind of subtitle will there be? A subtitle like a saxophonist or
Oh, yeah.
secretary, or I don't know, because I don't know what I'd want under me if you're going to have subtitles, because
Oh, yeah. So that's
I'm
up
not
to,
really actively pursuing gigs, so I don't know if I can call myself a musician at this point.
I mean, would it be a stretch if I just said guitarist?
You can put that. Yeah.
Yeah. I like simple. I
But
haven't.
without the J word, no, not jazz, just
Oh
guitarist.
yeah, no, I just say pianist or, the
Right.
J word. Is that what you said?
All because once I started to play guitar and I met a lot of my father's associates,
Hmm.
they're really elitist about jazz, and
What do you feel
I got
about that?
I got a lot of grief from some of them because I loved rock guitar. And
No,
plus, classical music, all kinds of stuff. I love blues and bluegrass, and
no, I have a problem with that as well. And I'm a fan of Bud's music for sure, but I also appreciate other types of music because I'm an artist, and I when I feel that they're using that instrument to express themselves in that way of an artist, I respect that. And but I have come across people who have been elitist or a little bit purist, and they
right,
say, "Oh, that person's not jazz, or this isn't Bud Powell influence,
Right.
or, and
Right.
to me, I have a hard time taking that in as well. And
Well, I have a scientific metaphor, but nobody seems to understand what I mean, but I'll give it to you anyway.
uh-huh.
Imagine a scientist that he masters the periodic table of the elements,
Yeah.
but he's in total denial about quantum mechanics
Mm-hmm.
and relativity. So like you're, because a lot of jazz musicians, because the harmony's more complex,
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes it like superior.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like, that's like your periodic table. The
Mm-hmm.
note that a musician plays, that's like your subatomic, like if you go into like the molecule and subatomic particles, it's way more complex than any construction of a molecule.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just so beyond. So like even a 5-year-old kid plays a note, that's their musical fingerprint, and there's so much in there, regardless of what context it's put in.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's how you might even know it's Bob Help or Charlie Parker from one note, because there's just so much in the note itself. Yeah, that's not. I can't express it.
No, 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 I'm following. Definitely
Yeah,
following.
because I'm trying to understand quantum mechanics better myself. I'm reading some very slowly reading through a physics book, trying to. It's just so bizarre. Like once you go into the subatomic level, it's like it's as big as the universe inside. Whereas,
We have 2 minutes. I'm gonna ask you to do one more thing.
okay,
It's already, you already answered it, but I'm gonna try to give it at a different way of you to answer it. Um, how often do you get asked if you were named after Bud Powell?
well, you're the fourth person to ask me. So there were three before you, and they were all musicians.
And how do you feel about being named after Bud Powell?
It's a huge honor.
Okay, I think I got it. I think I got it. All
All
right.
right.
Well, I think this is marvelous. I sent you a release form, so if you want to
I,
just, yeah, just whenever you get a chance, just sign it and then just scan it back to me, or if you take a photo and send it back to me. Um, just so I
and you
have it.
did you meet your goal yet on Kickstarter?
I am close. I'm like 90 some percent.
I'll try to get closer. If even if you don't make it, you won't can the project, will you?
Oh no,
You
no,
won't.
no. I'm definitely making the film.
Okay.
And this whole Kickstarter was great because I'm able to talk to people about it more and reach out to more people. And
And
it's
how big is this file going to be? That's this recording is to take up a lot of space in a
this
computer.
this
Yeah,
interview.
what do and
No, it
put it?
shouldn't. You want a copy?
I'd love to have a copy
Okay,
of it.
yeah, I'll send it to you. I think once this is done, it'll send it to me and then I'll just send it to you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, it's less than a minute, so I'm sure it's gonna just cut us off.
All right.
But we'll be in touch, bud.
Thank you so much, and it just
Thank
keep me
you.
posted on how it's going and all
Oh,
that.
of course. You will definitely know. All
All
right.
right.
Bye.